The Galactic Council chamber, usually a beacon of endless chatter from 1,000 species, was choked with an eerie, gut-wrenching silence. It wasn't the respectful quiet before a grand pronouncement, it was the kind of silence you feel just before a predator strikes. On the speaking platform, a human delegate, surprisingly calm, stood amidst the clamor of alien delegates who looked like a cosmic Super 8, some shimmering, some stony, all of them bristling with arrogance. But this human, his words weren't shouts or pleas. They were hammer blows. Each sentence a warning bell echoing the chilling screams of the dead from 1,000 human colonies. He spoke of unyielding fury, of a species that wouldn't kneel, wouldn't break. The alien lords, so accustomed to their fragile human toys, chuckled, rolled their eyes, and whispered about children who didn't know their place. But in the shadows, a few, those who had seen humans up close, felt a cold dread. They knew humanity's pattern: endure, adapt, and when pushed too far, strike back with a fury that left scars for generations. The council speaker, an ancient being with skin like weathered stone, leaned forward. "Human delegate," it rasped, "are you threatening the galaxy?" The man shook his head, his face a mask of calm. "No, we are warning you. Do not provoke us. Leave us in peace." The words hung in the air, followed by deep, mocking laughter from the powerful empires. They had no idea the silence they were inviting was the sound of teeth sharpening in the dark. The quiet before the universe would bleed. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Cosmic Conquerors channel. Before we start, I hope you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you receive all the new content, and also share the story with your friends so it reaches as many people as possible. And if you have a story, write it in the comments. Maybe we'll choose one to narrate in the next video. Let's start the story. Pay attention, because there's a small detail that might change your entire perspective and awareness of life. So, picture this: you've got this fancy Galactic Council, right? Full of all these super advanced aliens, each one thinking they're hot stuff, way smarter and tougher than anyone else. And then, there's this human dude, just standing there, cool as a cucumber, dropping truth bombs. He's basically saying, "Hey, we don't want trouble, but if you push us, you're gonna regret it, big time." And what do these galactic bigwigs do? They laugh, like, seriously. They actually chuckle and roll their eyes. Can you even imagine? This human? No. He wasn't playing. He gave one last speech, looking each species dead in the eye, and dropped another bombshell. "You think we're weak. You think we're small. But remember this: humans don't forget. Humans don't forgive. And when the day comes, when you finally understand what we are, it'll be too late." Mic drop. No one laughed that time. A few even got the shivers. What do you think? Should they have taken him seriously then, or kept on with their arrogant ways? Well, they kept on. Reports of alien raids on human colonies, ignored. Complaints about stolen trade routes, buried under a mountain of paperwork. And when a bunch of empires ganged up to discipline Earth, the council was like, "Yeah, go for it. These humans need to be taught a lesson." They really thought Earth couldn't do anything against empires that had been around for thousands of years. Talk about being clueless. Meanwhile, far across the stars, alien warships were already heading for human space. Their commanders all cocky and confident. They were dreaming of easy conquests, piles of resources, and tons of glory. They figured Earth would roll over in a few weeks. Boy, were they in for a rude awakening. But deep down, a few smart cookies on the council still had doubts. One old council member, probably the only one who actually read history, remembered stories about humans facing impossible odds and still winning. He remembered cities burned to ashes, only to be rebuilt stronger. He knew humans had this weird knack for turning weakness into super strength. He tried to warn them, but his voice was drowned out by all the noise. These empires were just too eager, too sure of themselves, too arrogant. They thought they had humanity all figured out. Oh, how wrong they were. Right then, in that moment, the fate of the galaxy completely shifted. By ignoring the warnings, by brushing off one calm human's words, they set off a chain reaction that couldn't be stopped. The council chamber went silent again, totally oblivious that this day would go down in history as the day the galaxy basically signed its own death warrant. And somewhere far away on Earth, humans were getting ready, quietly. No shouting, no threats. Just waiting. And when the time came, the whole galaxy was gonna get a crash course in what do not provoke us really meant.
This human, though, he wasn't playing. He gave one last speech, looking each species dead in the eye, and dropped another bombshell. You think we're weak, you think we're small, but remember this, humans don't forget. Humans don't forgive. And when the day comes, when you finally understand what we are, it'll be too late. Mic drop. No one laughed that time. A few even got the shivers. What do you think? Should they have taken him seriously then, or kept on with their arrogant ways? Well, they kept on. Reports of alien raids on human colonies? Ignored. Complaints about stolen trade routes? Buried under a mountain of paperwork. And when a bunch of empires ganged up to discipline Earth, the Council was like, yeah, go for it. These humans need to be taught a lesson. They really thought Earth couldn't do anything against empires that had been around for thousands of years. Talk about being clueless. Meanwhile, far across the stars, alien warships were already heading for human space, their commanders all cocky and confident. They were dreaming of easy conquests, piles of resources, and tons of glory. They figured Earth would roll over in a few weeks. Boy, were they in for a rude awakening. But deep down, a few smart cookies on the council still had doubts. One old council member, probably the only one who actually read history, remembered stories about humans facing impossible odds and still winning. He remembered cities burned to ashes, only to be rebuilt stronger. He knew humans had this weird knack for turning weakness into super strength. He tried to warn them, but his voice was drowned out by all the noise. These empires were just too eager, too sure of themselves, too arrogant. They thought they had humanity all figured out. Oh, how wrong they were. Right then, in that moment, the fate of the galaxy completely shifted. By ignoring the warnings, by brushing off one calm human's words, they set off a chain reaction that couldn't be stopped. The council chamber went silent again, totally oblivious that this day would go down in history as the day the galaxy basically signed its own death warrant. And somewhere far away, on Earth, humans were getting ready. Quietly. No shouting, no threats. Just waiting. And when the time came, the whole galaxy was going to get a crash course in what "do not provoke us" really meant. The first attacks were like sneaky shadows in the night. Alien fleets just slid into human territory, commanders bursting with confidence and swagger. They went for the little guys first, the outer colonies, those small, distant worlds nobody really cared about. To these empires, these were just easy pickings, fragile settlements waiting to be claimed. They fully expected humans to cry, whine, and then surrender. What a joke! On the colony world of Holstrom, that's where the first big hit landed. Alien warships came screaming through the sky, raining fire down on cities and farms. But guess what? The people of Holstrom actually fought back. With everything they had. Little defense fleets, ground troops, even regular folks volunteering. But, let's be real, against a massive alien armada, their resistance got crushed in a few days. The survivors, chained up and paraded around like trophies, just to show how strong the invaders were. The coalition leaders, feeling all smug, sent a message to the Galactic Council: the human frontier is ours. They're too weak to resist. The chamber erupted in applause. Some delegates were practically high-fiving, saying those humans finally learned their place. Those earlier warnings from the human delegate seemed totally ridiculous now. Just empty words from a desperate species. But hold on, not everyone was cheering. A few delegates sat there, totally silent, their eyes heavy with worry. They'd seen something a little off in the reports. Even with overwhelming force, those Holstrom humans had fought like maniacs. Even when they knew they were gonna lose, they absolutely refused to surrender. They fought till their weapons broke, till their defenses crumbled, till they were literally dragged away in chains. That kind of defiance. That ain't normal, folks. That's dangerous. What do you think? Did that defiance signal something to the aliens, or were they too blinded by their own ego? Still, The coalition just kept pushing. More colonies got hit. More settlements got blown to smithereens. And every single time, humans fought back with everything they had. Farmers grabbed rifles. Kids were running messages through burning streets. Pilots, with their ships practically falling apart, would ram them straight into enemy cruisers, taking a few bad guys down with them. The aliens called it stupid, laughed at the waste of life. But slowly, ever so slowly, a little seed of fear started growing among the lower soldiers. They started whispering, "These humans, they ain't like the others." Back in the council chamber, the human delegate showed up just once more. His face, colder than space itself. His words, sharper than a newly forged blade. "You let this happen. You ignored the warning. You think we are weak, but you will see the truth soon." The room exploded with jeers and laughter. One alien lord, a real piece of work, stood up and sneered, "The truth is already clear. Humanity is nothing." The human's eyes just locked on him for a second, and then he just walked out without another word. That silence, man, that silence even spooked the guys who were just mocking him. Meanwhile, Earth itself stayed totally still. The heart of humanity didn't send out any "help us" messages, no desperate pleas for peace, no surrender. That silence itself became a weapon, slowly planting a nasty seed of unease throughout the galaxy. The empires were expecting total panic. Instead, all they saw was quiet preparation. Human fleets stopped moving. Borders got sealed up tight. Colonies pulled back behind their defenses. And still, nobody understood what it all meant. The coalition, being the brilliant strategists they were, figured the silence meant fear. "Oh, Earth's breaking. Humanity's too shocked to fight back," they told themselves. They totally mistook patience for weakness. And in their boundless arrogance, they just kept marching deeper, hungry for more. So, on this world called Lorien, something super weird happened. As the alien fleet zoomed in, expecting to stomp all over everything, the human settlers just evacuated. In perfect, orderly lines, mind you. But they didn't just leave a "welcome" mat. Oh no. They left behind booby traps, mines hidden in space, and ambush ships cloaked in the darkness. The invaders, of course, scoffed at this resistance, but a good chunk of their ships never made it back. Whoops. Rumors started flying around faster than a speeding photon. The humans are planning something. Commanders, being the stubborn types they were, just waved off the rumors. Impossible, they declared. A young species like humanity could never hold a candle to the ancient powers of the galaxy. Their victories, at Holstrom and other places, had completely blinded them to the real deal. They thought strength was all about numbers, ships, and bigger guns. What they didn't get was that humanity's biggest weapon was something else entirely. Patience, memory, and a sheer, unadulterated will to survive. That little spark of alien arrogance? It was burning brighter with every single conquest. The coalition leaders were toasting their victories, puffing out their chests, seeing themselves as these epic conquerors who were going to go down in history for breaking humanity. They even promised their people that Earth itself would be kneeling before them any day now. What do you think, at that moment, did they truly believe their own hype, or was there a tiny, nagging doubt? But back at the Galaxy Council, things were getting a little twitchy. Some members remembered the human delegates' words. Others remembered the long, unsettling silence. And a few, the really nervous ones, started whispering what no one dared say out loud. What if humanity is just waiting? In the shadows, Earth's preparations were growing. Like, serious preparations. Fleets were being built in secret shipyards. Weapons that had never been seen before were being tested. Humanity wasn't bragging about its strength. It wasn't showing its hand. It was just waiting. And in that waiting, a storm was slowly brewing. Silent, invisible, unstoppable. The coalition, bless their naive little hearts, thought they were breaking humanity. But really, they were just pouring gasoline on a fire. That spark of arrogance had been lit, all right. And soon, the galaxy was going to learn just how dangerous it was to underestimate the humans. The galaxy had been expecting a lot of noise. Loud protests, desperate pleas, even whimpers for help. That's how the weaker species usually reacted when big, bad empires pushed them around. But after the raids, after the burned colonies and the broken fleets, humanity didn't scream. Humanity went quiet. And this silence freaked out the galaxy way more than any battle ever could. Messages from Earth became super rare. Human ambassadors stopped showing up at the council. Trade ships just vanished from their usual routes. It was like humans had just stepped back into the shadows, just watching, just waiting. The coalition empires kept telling themselves this was fear. They totally convinced their people that humanity had finally thrown in the towel. But deep down, a few commanders felt something else. A knot in their stomach. Dread. Then, strange reports started trickling in from the frontier. Patrol ships sent into human space? Poof, gone. Never returned. Fleets that dared to cross too far? Found only wreckage, just floating in the dark. Ships totally busted up by weapons nobody could identify. Some wrecks looked like they'd been melted from the inside out. Others were sliced perfectly in half. And the kicker? Never, ever any survivors. At first, the coalition tried to spin it as accidents. They even said humans were destroying their own ships just to make the coalition nervous. But whispers spread faster than wildfire through their lower ranks. Soldiers who'd actually fought humans before started telling old, chilling stories. Stories of a species that just never gave up, that always found a way to hit back. The silence of humanity was starting to feel less like surrender and a whole lot more like a trap. What do you think? Did those whispers and strange reports start to erode the aliens' confidence, or were they still too blind to see the writing on the wall? On the colony of Aridan, alien soldiers were having a victory party in the streets. They were taunting the human prisoners, calling them pathetic and weak. But that night, a weird signal zipped through the sky. It was a human transmission, short and cold. Remember this. Within hours, the alien barracks exploded in flames. Nobody ever figured out how the humans did it. But the message was crystal clear. Humanity had not forgotten. The council was getting seriously antsy. Some members were practically begging the coalition to stop pushing, warning that this silence was really, really dangerous. Others were shouting that the council couldn't show weakness, that the humans were already totally beaten. But every single debate ended the same way, with arguments, with pride, and with absolutely no decision made. The galaxy was just too blind to see the storm gathering right in front of them. Meanwhile, on Earth, the secret preparations kept on rolling. Massive shipyards were working non-stop. Entire planets were turned into giant forges, churning out weapons hidden from the galaxy's prying eyes. Scientists were whispering about new engines, new armor, new weapons that basically broke the laws of physics. But no big announcements. No threats. Humanity stayed silent. And that silence became a weapon, sharper than any blade. The coalition, still arrogant as ever, kept pushing deeper. They grabbed more human worlds. But the farther they went, the weirder the resistance got. Human colonies weren't fighting like normal folks. They were using traps, ambushes, sabotage. One tiny human freighter would lure whole fleets into minefields. Small fighters would vanish into asteroid belts, striking only when you least expected it. Even when they were defeated, human soldiers would leave behind poisoned water, broken machines, collapsed tunnels. Nothing was ever surrendered in one piece. Every victory felt hollow, and every step forward cost way more than they expected. One coalition commander, a guy who probably had a few sleepless nights, wrote in his report, "It is like fighting shadows. We win every battle, but it feels as if we are losing the war." What do you think? Was he the only one who realized this, or were others starting to feel it too? Still, the leaders just ignored him. They only believed in numbers, in fleets, in their own massive arrogance. They hadn't learned the truth yet. That silence isn't weakness. Silence can be the sound of teeth sharpening in the dark. Then came the disappearances. Whole alien fleets, like 30 or 40 ships strong, would just enter human space and, poof, never seen again. No distress calls. No survivors. Just silence. The coalition tried to hide it, but rumors spread faster than a space plague. Soldiers were talking about ghost fleets. Civilians were whispering about human monsters. Even the council chambers got super tense whenever the subject came up. One delegate, finally fed up, stood up and said what everyone was too scared to admit: "This is not surrender. This is preparation." But by then, it was already too late. In the stillness of space, human war machines waited, completely unseen. In the silence of Earth, strategies were being cooked up that would absolutely shatter empires. And in the hearts of every human, a quiet fury burned brighter with each passing day. The galaxy had mistaken this silence for fear. But soon, oh soon, they would understand. Humanity wasn't quiet because it was broken. Humanity was quiet because it was ready. The galaxy would look back on those months of silence with absolute horror. Because that, my friends, was the calm before the storm. The first sign came out of nowhere. At the edge of a sleepy star system, a coalition fleet of 50 ships was cruising along, feeling all confident. Their mission? Easy peasy. Push deeper into human space, grab another colony, and prove once and for all that humanity was weak. The alien commanders were even joking over their comms, totally mocking Earth's silence. They figured victory was already in the bag. Then, the shadows moved. From behind the dark side of a moon, something massive emerged. At first, the fleet thought it was just a giant asteroid, but then, engines. Blue fire roared from colossal thrusters. A single warship appeared, bigger than anything the galaxy had ever laid eyes on. Its armor was black, sharp, and angular, just sucking in the light of the stars. Along its surface, lines of energy glowed like fiery veins. The alien fleet went into full-blown panic mode. Sensors were screaming warnings. Weapons locked onto the human ship, and in seconds, the void was filled with fire. Missiles, beams, plasma bolts, everything slammed into that hull. But the human ship didn't even flinch. The attacks just burned against its armor like rain against a rock. What do you think? Did they expect that ship to just roll over and die? Then humanity answered. A single broadside lit up the darkness. Blinding lances of energy ripped across space, slicing through alien ships like they were made of paper. Whole cruisers split in half, their guts scattering into the void. In less than 1 minute, 10 ships were gone. The aliens tried to bail, tried to retreat, but the human ship was faster. Its weapons were sharper, its defenses unbreakable. It wasn't just a ship. It was a message. Across the galaxy, reports started flooding in. Alien fleets vanishing. Outposts destroyed. Human warships, massive, terrifying, unstoppable, appearing from the darkness, striking without warning, and leaving nothing but wreckage behind. The silence had ended, and what followed was thunder. In the council chamber, the vibe had totally flipped. The laughter, gone. The smug arrogance, poof. Fear now oozed from every corner. Delegates were whispering about the human fleet, about weapons nobody understood, about armor that just couldn't be broken. The warnings they'd so casually ignored were now echoing louder than ever: "Do not provoke us." But the coalition leaders, being the dense bunch they were, refused to admit defeat. They rallied more fleets, gathering hundreds of ships, the biggest armada the galaxy had seen in centuries. Their plan was simple: overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. They would crush this rebellion once and for all. The armada entered human space, all puffed up with pride, banners of war flying high. Yet, what was waiting for them? Silence. Again. No resistance, no sign of human fleets, just the empty, black expanse of space. And then, the trap was sprung. From hidden stations, from cloaked positions, from the darkness itself, humanity struck. Waves of guided weapons tore through the alien armada before it could even form its battle lines. Human warships emerged from the void, smaller than that colossal flagship we saw earlier, but still unlike anything ever witnessed. They moved with impossible speed, their weapons tearing through shields like they weren't even there. Alien commanders screamed for order. Ships scattered, trying to regroup, but the humans gave them no chance. Every formation just collapsed under relentless fire. Entire wings of ships vanished in brilliant white explosions. Within hours, what had been the galaxy's greatest armada became twisted wreckage, just drifting in the dark. The galaxy watched in absolute horror. News spread faster than light itself. Humanity had crushed the invincible fleet. A species the galaxy once mocked, once dismissed as fragile and weak, had just shattered the pride of ancient empires. And humanity didn't stop. One by one, coalition strongholds fell. Border worlds burned, fortresses crumbled. The humans advanced with cold, hard precision, destroying only what resisted, leaving behind silence and fear. They didn't boast. They didn't laugh. They just marched forward, unstoppable, like a force of nature. What do you think? Were the aliens finally starting to understand the true cost of their arrogance? On one captured world, a human commander sent a message to the council. His voice was calm, almost quiet. But every single word carried the weight of doom. You were warned. We asked for peace. You brought US war. Now you will see the cost. The galaxy trembled. The warnings were no longer just echoes of the past. They were reality. Humanity had risen from silence, and in its fury, no empire was safe. The reckoning had begun. The galaxy had never experienced a silence quite like this. After the absolute smackdown of the Coalition's Great Armada, it felt like the stars themselves were holding their breath. News traveled faster than any fleet, and entire empires were whispering in sheer terror. Once, they'd mocked the humans. Once, they'd laughed off the Council's warnings. No. Their laughter was gone, completely replaced by gut-wrenching fear. Everywhere you went, people were asking the same frantic question: what will humanity do next? The answer came quickly, and man, it was chilling. Human fleets fanned out through the stars, striking not with some wild, uncontrolled rage, but with cold, exact precision. They didn't waste a single shot. They didn't destroy just for the fun of it. They targeted command centers, supply depots, weapon factories. With every single strike, the Coalition just got weaker and weaker. Entire planets surrendered without even a fight, their leaders practically begging for mercy before a single human ship even entered orbit. But mercy, that was a rare commodity. On Holstrom, that first colony that had been taken and burned, the humans returned. They freed the survivors, but the alien occupiers? They didn't get a chance to run. Every fortress was leveled. Every warship in orbit was vaporized into ash. The message, carved into the ruins for all to see, was chillingly simple: you were warned. What do you think? Was that a proportional response, or did it go too far? The Galactic Council was sitting in utter dread. That same chamber that had once echoed with mocking laughter was now heavy with a suffocating silence. Delegates who had scoffed at humans before couldn't even meet each other's eyes. Some were frantically demanding the Council step in and beg for peace. Others whispered that it was already too late, that humanity would never, ever forgive what had been done. And you know what? They were right. On the world of Tauren Prime, the capital of a major coalition empire, the sky turned black as human warships appeared above the clouds. The alien leaders were practically tripping over themselves, begging for negotiations. They sent out desperate signals, promising to pull out of human space, promising reparations, promising anything. But the humans, they didn't reply. Their silence was way worse than any words could have been. Then the bombardment began. The night was ripped apart by fire. Towers crumbled. Fortresses exploded. Fleets in orbit shattered in minutes. The streets filled with screams. But nobody came to save them. In just 3 days, an empire that had lasted 10,000 years was gone. Erased from the stars. And still, the humans advanced. The coalition collapsed completely, its leaders either killed or running into hiding like scared little space mice. Whole civilizations that had joined the raids against Earth were forced to their knees. Some even offered their fleets to humanity as tribute. Others just abandoned their own worlds and fled into the darkest, furthest corners of the galaxy. Yet, no matter how far they ran, they couldn't escape the shadow of what they had unleashed. For the first time, the galaxy finally saw what humanity truly was. They weren't the fragile, reckless children of Earth. They were survivors of a death world, forged in fire, born from struggle, carrying in their blood the memory of endless wars. They were patient. They were relentless. And when provoked, they were utterly merciless. At last, the Council called for a final, desperate meeting. In the chamber, trembling voices begged humanity to stop. They offered treaties, promises, absolutely anything to end the storm. And for the first time in months, a human delegate returned to the floor. He stood in silence for a long moment, his eyes scanning the chamber just as he had done before. The very same delegates who had once mocked him now sat frozen, unable to breathe under his gaze. Finally, he spoke, his voice calm, steady, and heavy with the undeniable weight of victory. "We warned you," he said. "We told you what would happen if you provoked us. You laughed. You mocked us, and now you see the truth. We are not weak. We are not fragile. We are human, and humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive." No one answered. No one dared. The delegates simply turned and walked away, leaving behind a silence deeper than space itself. The Council knew the galaxy would never be the same. Empires that had once stood for ages had been shattered in weeks. Species that had called themselves mighty were broken. And all because they ignored a simple warning. From that day on, no one dared provoke humanity again. Children grew up with stories of the reckoning, whispered tales about the humans who came from a small blue world and brought empires to their knees. Entire generations would remember the lesson, written in fire across the stars. The price had been paid. And in the shadows of space, humanity returned to its silence. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. The galaxy finally understood what that silence meant. It meant humanity was watching. It meant humanity was waiting. And if ever provoked again, the stars themselves would tremble. And with that, we have reached the end of the story, but stories don't end here. If you like the story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you receive all the new content. And if you have an opinion or something that caught your attention, leave a comment and let's discuss together. I'm waiting for your opinions, and see you in the next story. Bye.